Hello class. Did you know there's a Tera mechanic that offers a significant power boost to weak moves? You might, but if so, I'm guessing you don't know exactly how it works. I recently put out several quizzes testing my viewers' knowledge on this mechanic, and the results were abysmal. This mechanic is way more complicated than I thought, and I myself only recently got to the point where I can say that I understand it fully. In this video, I'll be breaking down exactly how this weak move Tera boost works and the competitive applications for it. Let's start by briefly reviewing the basics of Tera first, things you almost certainly already know. If you Tera into a type that you weren't before, you'll be granted the 1.5 times same type attack boost, or stab, on moves of that type. If you Tera into a type that you already had stab on, you get a 1.33 times boost along with that stab boost, resulting in a 2 times power boost overall, effectively giving you adaptability on that type. In this video, I'll be calling this the regular Tera boost, the one you're familiar with that you use all the time. The lesser known part of Tera is that it grants weak moves a 60 base power floor, then gives the additional regular boost to Tera. I'll be calling this the 60 BP floor boost. So, for example, a move like Trailblaze is 50 base power. If my Mamoswine uses Tera Grass and Trailblaze, the power of Trailblaze will be bumped up to 60, then the 1.5 times stab boost will be applied, basically making Trailblaze go from 50 base power to 90 base power just from using Tera Grass. It should be noted that Trailblaze gets this 60 base power floor boost because I used Tera Grass, and Trailblaze is a grass type move. If my Mamoswine was Tera Ground, Fairy, Ice, or anything else, Trailblaze won't get this 60 base power bump. Only moves of the type you Tera into will get any kind of power increase. This same power boost, of course, works with stab moves. Let's say I'm using a really gimmicky Mamoswine set with Mud Slap. That's a 20 base power move that lowers the opponent's accuracy. Mud Slap is 30 base power if we consider stab, since Mud Slap is a ground type move and Mamoswine is a ground type. If I Tera Ground, Mud Slap will be boosted to 60 base power, then the usual 2 times Tera stab boost will be applied, ending at 120 base power. That's 4 times as strong as Mud Slap originally was. It should be noted that Tera Stellar will not activate this 60 BP floor boost on any moves. So it seems simple enough, right? Well, there's actually a ton more we need to talk about. The first is that there are cases where this doesn't apply at all. Your first thought would probably be that this 60 BP floor boost might make priority moves broken by essentially giving all 40 base power priority moves like Aqua Jet, Mach Punch, Shadow Sneak, and such a Technician boost. Everything would become Scizor when it used Tera. If a Samurott used Tera Water, its Aqua Jet would suddenly become equivalent to Palafin's Jet Punch. This would be totally broken, and that's why the developers made it not work that way. This 60 BP floor boost doesn't apply to priority moves at all. Now, you still get the regular Tera boost on priority moves. So, for example, if our Mamoswine uses Tera Ice, Ice Stab will go from 1.5 times to 2 times stab boost thanks to Tera, making Ice Shard 1.33 times stronger than it was pre-Tera. But it won't get the 60 BP floor in addition to this regular boost. That would be like if we gave Mamoswine Technician. For similar reasons, this 60 BP floor boost doesn't apply to multi-hit moves. Imagine if using Tera Ice on Cloyster made each hit of Icicle Spear 60 base power before applying the Tera boost. That would make Icicle Spear one-hit KO defensive Toxapex after a Shell Smash. So, to summarize, if you Tera into a type, moves of that type under 60 base power will be boosted to 60 base power before the regular Tera boost is applied, with the exception of priority and multi-hit moves. Believe it or not though, we're still not done talking about this mechanic. It gets even more complex. That's because the 60 BP floor boost is calculated after all base power increasing effects. Now, stay with me here. There's a difference between increasing a move's base power and increasing the damage that move deals. For example, let's say we have an itemless Enamorus with Draining Kiss. Draining Kiss is a 50 base power move. Since Enamorous is a fairy type, Stab is applied, essentially making it 75 base power. This simplification normally works well, but here it's actually inaccurate. Stab actually increases the damage dealt by 1.5 times, but according to the game, it doesn't increase the base power of the move. This is important because it means that when Enamorous uses Tera Fairy, the game still considers Draining Kiss to be a 50 base power move, and thus it is boosted to 60 base power. Then the 2 times Tera Stab multiplier, or the regular Tera boost, is applied. But this is an itemless Enamorous. What if we give it choice specs? Choice specs is a damage multiplier like Stab, so the 60 base power floor boost will still be applied. But what if we give Enamorous a Fairy Feather, which boosts the power of fairy moves by 1.2 times? Well, this is a base power multiplier. So if we multiply the 50 base power of Draining Kiss by the 1.2 times of the Fairy Feather, we get exactly 60. So when the game checks for 60 BP floor, you won't get any boost. For this reason, an itemless Tera Fairy Enamorous using Draining Kiss is exactly as strong as a Fairy Feather Tera Fairy Enamorous using Draining Kiss. The lesson here is that you should check what is a damage multiplier and a base power multiplier before you try to utilize this 60 BP floor boost. Terrain, like grassy and psychic terrain, is factored in before the 60 BP floor boost. Weather, like rain and sun, is factored in after the 60 BP floor boost. So you'll get a much more generous boost using Tera Fire Flame Charge in sun than Tera Grass Trailblaze in grassy terrain. Boosting items like Black Glasses and Fairy Feather are considered before the 60 BP floor boost, but the Expert Belt boost is considered after the 60 BP floor boost. Setup moves are thankfully factored in after as well, so if that Enamorous from earlier uses Calm Mind, you won't lose the 60 BP floor boost on Draining Kiss. There seems to be generally little rhyme or reason to what is considered before versus after. Bulbapedia will tell you what is a damage versus a base power multiplier, or you can just plug it into the damage calculator and check. I'll link those in the description. Basically though, you want to make sure that any other boosts applied to the weak move are applied after the 60 BP floor is considered. That way, the weak move will get the greatest boost possible. Okay, now you finally know everything there is to know about this Tera mechanic. There are no more layers to it. But before we get into applications, let's do a quick quiz to make sure you absorbed all that. This is the question all of my viewers got wrong. A Tera normal Cinderace has the following moves. Which is the most powerful? Feel free to pause the video and try to figure this out for yourself. Okay, let's get into it and go through it one by one. Flame Charge is 50 base power, which is of course less than 60, but we didn't Tera Fire, we used Tera Normal. So Flame Charge won't get the 60 BP floor boost, but since Cinderace is a fire type, Stab effectively boosts it to 75 base power. Quick Attack is 40 base power, but we used Tera Normal. Quick Attack is less than 60 base power, but since it's a priority move, we don't get the 60 BP floor boost here. We do, however, of course, still get the regular Tera boost, which is just Stab. So that's 40 times 1.5, which is 60. Next up is Tackle, which is also 40 base power. This isn't a priority move though, so our Tera Normal gets us the 60 BP floor boost, up to 60 base power, then we get the regular 1.5 times Tera boost, bringing it up to a total 90 base power. The last option can be easily eliminated, so we see the right answer is C, Tackle. By now, you're hopefully comfortable with how this mechanic works, so we're ready to talk about applications. The unfortunate truth is, there aren't many. There's a reason almost nobody understands how this works. It's not that important. The vast majority of low base power moves used in competitive Pokemon are priority or multi-hit moves, and neither of those will ever get a 60 base power floor boost. There are applications for this mechanic though, weak moves that have secondary effects. Moves like Flame Charge, Trailblaze, Draining Kiss, and Power Up Punch are prime examples. In the background footage right now, you see a game where I use Tera Fairy Draining Kiss Milotic on reverse webs. That's a pretty funny application. Earlier, you also saw a team where I used Life Orb, Tera Fairy, Draining Kiss, Enamorus on Veil. That's another solid application. Latias and Comfey are also sometimes seen in OU and can take advantage of Tera Fairy as well. As far as OU goes, most of this mechanic is just Draining Kiss, but in other formats there's more variety. In Ubers, Koraidon sometimes uses Tera Fire Flame Charge and takes advantage of this boost. In ZU, Hisuian Sneasel uses Tera Grass Trailblaze sweeping sets with Swords Dance. In VGC, where Snarl is an actual move, this mechanic also helps out. But part of the reason this mechanic has such little usage is because so few people know about it. Maybe you'll be the one to make Tera Electric Swords Dance Nuzzle Hatterene a real meta threat. Maybe we've all been sleeping on Tera Ground Mudslap Skeleturge. Maybe Tera Poison Acid Spray Ironmoth is the stall breaker we've needed all along. Now that you know how this mechanic works, keep your eye out for weak moves that could use a little boost. It might go a long way. And even if you don't end up using the 60 BP floor boost yourself, at least now you won't be so surprised by the damage your opponent deals when utilizing this mechanic. If you learned something and or enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like and consider subscribing. Let me know in the comments what your favorite application of this mechanic is. That's all for today. Class dismissed.